Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the YouTube channel and the podcast. And today we have something very different and honestly, compared to what we've gotten the last 4 or 5 days from the sports apocalypse, as I might be coining it at this point. Pretty exciting stuff from SuperDraft. So if you're not familiar with SuperDraft.io, they do a different type of daily fantasy format, different type of DFS. It's a multiplier format, as you can see on the screen. So instead of dealing with salary caps or just like a snake draft, it's a multiplier. Each person gets a multiplier. The lower the multiplier based on your skill set. So for example, James Harden on a normal NBA slate will have a low multiplier compared to somebody like Kobe White, a rookie. If you're not familiar with the NBA, it just pretty much means the better you are, the lower multiplier you have. So you get just an extra bonus for your points scored. So with that said, this video is going to be sponsored by SuperDraft because their formats are pretty cool. So there's a thing right now they launched yesterday called the Super Sims Legends. And right now there's already 4,000 people in it and it doesn't start for like another 12 hours. So this thing might actually fill because there's just nothing else going on right now, but it's free to enter. There's $500 in prizes, $50 up top, and the overall amount of prizes paid out is 150 spots. So pretty cool. Yesterday, I think I finished somewhere in like the mid 20s. So $5 free to play with, which look, it's fun to do. It's fun to track. So what it really is they're just taking legendary teams from the past and making a DFS format and simulating a game behind it. So today is the 2012 Miami Heat, the big three, LeBron, Wade, and Chris Bosh versus the 2001 Lakers where they had Kobe and Shaq and Derek Fisher, right? So it's an interesting format. The problem was yesterday that I was under the assumption, and a lot of people were, that they were going to have a simulated game, like a video game experience where you could watch the 2-hour game or the 3-hour game online, and they would stream it from someplace, and that's where the fantasy points were coming. They didn't have that set up, and it's something where there was no real interaction. So what they ended up doing was they just sort of simulated the game and the points started coming during that time anyways, but you didn't see how they were happening. So it just makes the appeal of like watching the sport and having DFS with it not as entertaining. They noticed this and I emailed them probably about 10 to 15 minutes afterwards because they had almost 7,000 people in their contests last night. Most of their contests are usually like 2,000, 3,000 when they fill. So there's a huge market space here and a market cap for this. I would imagine other sites like DraftKings and FanDuel. So even though there's no sports going on, I imagine these sites are building something similar to what SuperDraft did, or just similar to something like that to keep. So we'll be still here. Don't worry about it. But SuperDraft, I reached out to them. They're trying to develop a more interactive format. I have offered up the assistance of me being a commentator with a live chat because I've had a couple people recommend that, and that sounds pretty cool, of these games. So the game simulates behind me. I'm just sitting there, reading chat, sweating the games as well. And I would imagine that they'll start to have paid for contests during this time. But for right now, it's totally free. I'm going to leave a link down below to these contests right now outside of League of Legends, which I broke down on today's Patreon this morning. I'm going to be building a database for that today. But outside of League of Legends, it doesn't seem like there's going to be any other sports until these sites develop new game modes, and SuperDraft was the first one to do so. So you can check out that link down below to it. That link will help me. It credits them to let you know that you came from me. As long as there's free contests, it doesn't do anything but just let them know that you came from me, so potentially still keep a sponsorship during this time. But the main thing is that you get in there and just play. I do think this contest is going to come close to filling based on the fact that yesterday they opened their contest at 1 p.m. for a lock at 7, and in 6 hours, over 6,000 people, almost 7,000 went into it, and now we're 12 hours from it, and there's 4,000 people in it. You can max out 5 entries, so you might as well put all 5 in there. So you can check that link out down below. But what I have over my screen is just a simple projection model. What it's really just taking is a fantasy point per game and taking it by the multiplier. There's not much more I can do with that as of right now outside of that. But it does give you some ideas of what value will look like based on what SuperDraft is saying is the fantasy point per game average. Now, I don't know if the interactive format of having a live stream will be ready today. But based on the email that I received from my contact there, it seems like they're working pretty quickly to develop something where there is an interactive component. So honestly, less than a week makes sense. They had this thing out in like 3 or 4 days, so they're working pretty quick with the technology over there. Again, the 2012 Miami Heat versus the 2001 Lakers. So what you're seeing here is just the simple projection model over my head. I have it broken up by utility and champion. So you have a champion spot similar to your captain spot. If you remember just DraftKings captain for showdowns, similar to things like that. You get 4 flex spots, and then you get the champion spot. The champion spot will have a 50% multiplier on it, and the 4 flex players, exactly like a showdown format. So I have this broken up by utility multipliers, and as well as their projections over my screen. As the same for champions, it goes all the way down. I'll be providing these on screen and see how this stuff ranks out and works in terms of a reach on YouTube. But if you are a current patron, I'm not trying to tout anything or sell you anything if you're not, but if you are a current patron, I'll just let you know that these will also be thrown into an Excel sheet, so it's just easier for you to sort day in and day out. Seems like something that is going to become more of the norm over the next few months as we work through some of this more stuff happening in real life. And honestly, it's a fantastic thing to just try and take your mind off of that when we don't have sports. Usually something that will take your mind off these things. This is a pretty cool alternative, and I hope to see more things like this popping up in the industry really over the next week or 2 weeks, I would imagine. So what you get right here is, if you're just looking from a utility standpoint, and it's going to factor into your champion salary based on just they're going to have very similar multipliers crossing over to there, just 50% higher points. So it really is going to seem similar, but you only get one champion. So right now, just based on the pure just averages of fantasy points in projected multipliers, it seems that Chris or Dwayne Wade is the best captain play early on for this slate. 117 projected points is just way more than anybody else, a 2.25x champion multiplier and a 1.5. So at the very least, you should have Wade in probably all of your utility spots if you're entering 5 lineups, and you should be trying to prioritize him in the captain spot. After that, it looks like Chris Bosh is pretty strong. A 2.7x multiplier in Chris Bosh is pretty crazy. Like there's 5 superstars, if you want to call it, from this game: LeBron, Shaq, Kobe, Dwayne Wade, and Bosh. And Bosh just seems to get the short end of the stick, and naturally he has a higher multiplier there, and it's a huge one. Like Chris Bosh is getting a 2.7x multiplier in his champion spot, where LeBron's getting a 1.5x, or the captain spot, if you want to call it. Just for utility, Bosh almost a 2x multiplier to LeBron's 1x. That makes sense because LeBron's the better player, but is he 80% of a better player than Bosh? Maybe in real life, but if we're talking about fantasy scoring wise, probably not. So yes, Bosh and Wade look like staples of what this slate is going to create. We'll see what happens just with minutes. You have Devion George in a situation where he's averaging 23.5 fantasy points per game at a 2.45x SuperDraft utility multiplier. So George looks like somebody that, you can throw in as sort of a salary, not even a salary relief because you don't need salary here. It's just like an ownership relief to try and get somebody lower owned. There's really no point in dipping down there. Everybody's going to be trying to own LeBron, Shaq, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Those 5 guys. Those will be the 5 guys that I imagine are in most people's lineups. If you're just plugging those 5 guys in, there's a decent chance that you cash. But if you're trying to win something by yourself, just getting different anywhere else will be paying off here. And the ways that you can get different elsewhere, and it's going to be tough because the gap between LeBron, Shaq, Kobe, Wade, and Bosh, like their points right now in terms of just a simple projection, is so much further than the next one. Like the lowest projection right now is Kobe Bryant at 61.6 points in his simple just utility spot projection. That would be like the 5th guy into your lineup. He has the 5th highest. The next closest right now for me on here is George, who has 57.6. So yes, fading Kobe Bryant for George does not sound great. And these are just median projections based on the fantasy point per game that we're getting from SuperDraft. That does not sound great, but if you're entering 5 lineups, you're not going to enter the same one every single time. So George seems like somebody who's sort of an alternative type of player into your lineups. I could say the exact same thing for some other players like Derek Fisher to an extent with some sort of an upside. Ray Allen, obviously some sort of an upside as well. So that's where I would be at. I don't think there's much more at the lower end, like anything past like a 2.5 multiplier, like anything past George's 2.45x multiplier doesn't stand out. Like if I scroll all the way to the bottom, you're not going to find much down here. Nothing's popping off all that much. Norris Cole has some sort of upside, but when you factor that in, like some sort of upside relative to all the value plays, but when you factor that in elsewhere, it's not that great. So like players that are actually in play for me today, it's going to be 12. It's going to start at LeBron's 1x multiplier, and it's going to go down to George's 2.45x multiplier. I would probably even kick out Rick Fox in there. I might even try to kick out Walker in there and just get it down to a 10-person player pool for 5 lineups and go from there. Now, obviously, there's just $500 guaranteed. 150 places get paid out, which is pretty cool. They're going to be making, I would imagine, I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine that eventually they're going to be making paid for contests. I assume they'll still have free contests as this is a promotion and just get as many people in while you have a market share and an open market share of people looking for DFS play, and then you start to get some open contests in there probably when they have the interaction format up and going. But I think just getting ahead of it and being prepared and understanding what this is going to be good because the industry is going to be going towards this way. They're faced with a challenge right now, and they're going to be going towards some sort of simulated DFS and some sort of alternative DFS. You saw it with the debates last night on FanDuel. You saw it obviously here on SuperDraft debut yesterday. It's going to happen. They are not just going to close up shop for 3 months or so and do nothing about it. You're going to see a lot more action. As for esports, League of Legends, I have a breakdown on Patreon, mainly for the patrons. Again, not touting that for you to go buy it and see it. It's just to continue to give out valuable content to the people who are currently patrons for me. during this time. I will also have data sheets up for the League of Legends because it is very projectable and there is a very strong strategy to it that we discussed this morning. So I'll have that up on Patreon. And as long as I get those data sheets done today, I might start actually just breaking down some stuff via YouTube. League of Legends said that they would likely go online. It's not a guarantee, but likely go online if they were to have to shut down events, which I imagine they will as well. So with that said, this is just a super draft. It's the Super Sim Legends format. It is once again free to enter today. There's a link down below. That link will take you to Twitter. I can't post direct links to SuperDraft because it's considered a gambling site. It's a gaming site, so I get it. Otherwise, I get suspended. Don't want that at this time right now. So it'll post a link over to Twitter. You find that out. You can hit up my Twitter and you can follow me over there if you want. And then you just take that link over to SuperDraft. Currently, as I refresh what we're seeing right now in the SuperDraft lobby from when I opened it, we are currently at 4,000 current entries. That is 40% full of the 10,000 max. Again, it filled 6,000 people in 6 hours yesterday. There's currently 12 hours or 11 hours still to go, and it has to fill 6,000. I think it's going to get there, especially when you factor in that I'm making a video on it now. So yeah, I think this is pretty cool. If you want me to actually be on these streams and them to have streams and me to be on there, just my little head like it is right now, commentating with the chat on the side, and really talking through these simulated games. And I think it's actually a cool idea, and it's really something that's probably more so of a future moving forward. If you want that, reach out to SuperDraft. Like, put pressure on them. I already said that I'd be willing to do it, and maybe there's somebody, a rep from there watching this right now, and I am willing to do it, and I'm ready to do it. And I'm probably one of the only people who has the free time and the ability to do this. So it's pretty exciting stuff. I think there's a lot of opportunity here, especially being first to market with this. And I think you have to jump on it. And the interactive partnerships will be huge. So just tweet at SuperDraft DFS and be like, hey, make Sal on some of these live streams. Could be pretty cool, or at least have the live streams. So thank you everybody for tuning in. This is the Super Draft. Currently right now, the 2012 Miami Heat versus the 01 2000 Lakers is a $500 free roll with 150 paid out spots, totally free to enter. Once again, the link is down below in the description. March 16th, Monday video. Best of luck, everybody. Stay safe out there. And this is just a really fun and cool way to sort of cope with there not being much sports, and I expect to see more of this in the future. Hit that subscribe button on the podcast version before you go. If you're watching on the podcast and you couldn't really see the projections on the screen behind me and the data models, check out the YouTube channel if you'd like. While you're over there, hit the subscribe button right now if you're still watching on the YouTube channel, and the notification bell. Now more than ever, I would love to get that support, so I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Above my head, if you're not already subscribed to this channel, I do ask you if you can please hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a good amount to reach more people. You can also follow me on Twitter. That's over there. Right in the corner is my @SalVetriDFS Twitter. And then above, you'll find my Patreon link. You can click on that if you want more exclusive content for me, or a video is going to pop up, so why don't you check that one out as well. I think it's going to be beneficial for you. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.